Jaques Valle was on That UFO podcast, and he was talking about disclosure and how things could get troublesome if there was indeed disclosure, and how there was at one point an opportunity, and it looked like there was a plan to make it happen even earlier. And his thoughts on why and what could happen and people that had gotten hurt is interesting. So I want to play this clip from That UFO podcast with Jaques Valle, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Here it is.
It could have happened later, in the 50s, in the mid-50s, with the Battelle Institute study, which was a very good study. And they wanted to push it forward, and the Air Force and the CIA stopped it. Officially, it was the Air Force, but the Air Force was there on behalf of the CIA, and the CIA wanted to control the information, so nothing happened. The results of the study were classified. It could, if it had been published then, there wouldn't be the tension and the angst and the, that there is now of the fear, that there is among a number of us. And, I'm afraid of what's going to happen if we have sudden disclosure all of a sudden, because everybody has a different idea of disclosure. So it's not one thing. It's going to fracture society into people who say, well, we should not look at it because it's the devil. People will say, let's greet them because they come from God. They are going to bring us a solution to many problems. There are people who say, they will be like helping us get to the planets and so on for science. And then there will be people who just want to ignore the whole thing. And then there are stories that will come out. I mean, a lot of people have been hurt. That's one of the things we were doing with the Bigelow Project, was a very deep look at the injuries from exposure to UFOs, okay? Both in terms of pathology and in terms of general impact on biology. After all, there were 3 biologists on the, 2 biologists and 1 full doctor on the research team. So having the disclosure now is very late in the game. And I salute the current administration if they are really ready to do that. But it's not, what I'm saying is it's not like revealing the files of the Kennedy assassination. It's really looking at the future, not looking at the past.
That last thing is the most telling with what he's saying, because it's like there is still, the only pushback that I would give is the same thing. I had a conversation with somebody recently about the Kennedy files, and they said, well, why do we care so much about the past? What does that matter? That all those people who were involved in that are dead now. It's like, yeah, but it's looking into what that did for the future. If there were parts of the government that were able to do that and get away with that, and then what did that do? What kind of trickle effect did that have? And is that also part of the investigation that leads to more things? Okay, look, they did that, and then what they also did because of that was this, which is, again, a trickle effect. So just saying, well, everybody's dead now, who cares? I think that's not the way to look at it. That's not what Jaques Valle is saying. He's just saying more so that you're looking at the past and doing investigation of something in the past. But this, if you're releasing the information to UFOs, then you're essentially affecting the future, and you're changing the world, essentially, is what is he's alluding to, and what we've all kind of thought about, right? Like, if this is the case, if these are the things that he mentioned, that there were times and there were other approaches to try to get disclosure out there, and then it was parts of the government that essentially shut it down. Now, what he's saying here is that if the government is actually, if there's parts of the government now that are pushing for that and that make that happen, well, then that's exactly the way it could go down. But the problem is, what he's saying is that there's so many different people involved. There's so many different things that have happened in the past that if this big dump of information comes out, there's just a lot in order to make that happen. And then what happens in general? And it's a conversation we've all been having. It's a conversation that we've said. But this is someone who's been involved in it and knows more things about it than you and I do, about the actual things themselves, about what they are and all that. And I'm with you guys, though. I already know what you're saying, and I'm with you. I'm tired of maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll happen. It's a matter of what is the big information dump? When does that happen? When will it? Because, and I'll tell you, and even recently, a colleague of mine, someone not in this space, but in the movie space, they were talking about the movie that Kaczynski is doing with David Grush producing, and again, a friend of mine who had said that and doesn't pay attention to this, doesn't pay attention to the topic, doesn't pay attention to things that were going on in Congress, and said that the loons would be happy. And it's like, it's disappointing, and it's not something necessarily a disappointment on him. He's not well read on the subject. He doesn't know the subject, so he automatically goes into the stigma of the people who believe in UFOs are crazies and things of that nature. And there is, if you're read up on it, if you pay attention to what happened in Congress, and that there are people that are talking about these things and seeing things, and all pilots are seeing things, and the conversations that we have all the time, and it's not even a matter of believing whatever you believe it is. It's a matter of knowing that there are things out there that are unidentified, and that have been said as much by the government themselves, that this program existed and all of that. And one of the main reasons that I've said this over and over and over again is because the mainstream coverage of this is not as relevant, or prevalent rather, as it should be. And I think that this is what Jaques Valle is also saying, that if this happens, then you can't. Then the person I'm talking about is not going to then say, if it's out there and everyone is talking about it, and the information is dumped, and they discover it, and it changes the future. Well, then maybe that's what we need. Maybe it's not what we need. Who knows? Maybe we do videos afterwards and saying, maybe we should stick our heads back in the sand. Maybe we didn't want to know that. Or maybe that's what he knows. Maybe Jaques Valle feels that we can't handle this. Oh. What do you guys feel about these comments? What do you think about them? Put your thoughts in there. Let me know. And I put a link to this clip, and then I put a link to the interview itself from That UFO Podcast. So make sure you check that out. You can always join as a member here if you want. You want to support the show. If not, you can get yourself one of our wonderful sponsors. I'm going to tell you about a great one right now. Here you go. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like taking a call on a train or bus on speaker for everyone to hear. You really want the whole train to know about your medical test results? Because all your traffic flows through their servers, internet service providers, including mobile network providers. They know every single website that you visit. And in the US, ISPs are legally allowed to sell that information to advertisers. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers, so your ISP can't see your browsing history. This is why I love ExpressVPN. It hides your IP address. It makes it extremely difficult for third parties to track your online activity. It's very easy to use. You fire up the app, you click one button, you get it protected. It works on all devices, whether it's a phone, a laptop, tablet, and more, so you can stay private on the go. It is rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. Whether I'm traveling on train or whatever it is, I just like using it because I know I'm protected. So I've been using ExpressVPN. I'm glad that I have it. So if you want to do the same thing and protect your online privacy today, you got to visit expressvpn.com/DTE. That is expressvpn.com/DTE to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/DTE.